this computer. Oh, recording is in progress. That's good news. Okay. Okay, can everybody hear me? Thumbs up is good. We can hear. Alrighty. Welcome to Stamping 101. Okay. So what I want to start with is we're going to start with the basics, because not everybody has a stamping platform. Not everybody has all of the tools and everything that you need. So I'm going to start right from what everybody should be able to get in their home, which is some plain old copy paper, okay, or photocopy paper, even lined paper that you use in a binder, okay. The reason why you want to have something underneath when you're going to stamp an image is because you want to be able to have something for your stamp to soak into and to bite into. So when I started paper crafting, people would be taking a stamp like this and just on a flat table or something like that and trying to stamp down and then getting like a concave area in the middle where they'd be missing something. And it's, you know, and then they'd be like, oh, well, we need a flatter surface or a harder surface. What you actually need is something that will allow you to have your stamp be able to bite into your cardstock. So it needs to have a little bit of give underneath it, but all the way across, something softer, not necessarily a table, okay? I'm gonna start with a sentiment here, just on a plain old block. So that's where we're gonna start, because these are the cheapest of tools to start with. And I have my sentiment here, which is from this awesome little set here that Wish You Were Here, and I'm much more me when I'm with you. So I'm actually gonna be prepping my sentiment for tomorrow's cards. You know, a couple birds, one stone. So first thing that you want to do when you get a new stamp is you want to make sure that you're going to kind of rough it up a little bit. So run your fingers across it. You want to take some of the processing. Oftentimes there'll be ink or there'll be something on it. You can use a cloth, rub it off too, or just your fingers. Okay, so it kind of starts to condition your stamp. Okay. So that's first thing. Now, the second thing is, what kind of ink are you going to use, which we talked about the last time. When you're doing or in our Inks 101 class, when you're using a sentiment in particular, you want to use a really good quality ink, but you want something that is going to have a good viscosity, something that's going to cling to your stamp really well. So in general, I tend to recommend a good oil-based or pigment-based if you're using for a sentiment, unless you're going to be using alcohol inks around it. You don't want to use a pigment-based one for that. You have to use Memento or something like that, a water-based ink for something like that. So for using so I'm going to do that. The other thing that you can use, this is what I have Gina K Designs amalgam ink, and it's another type of hybrid. You can use this for any kind of watercoloring or for alcohol inks. So it's good for both, which is excellent, because then you don't have to think about which kind of ink am I using today. You know, you can just use it for whichever. Okay. So I'm going to take my little Stampy-Doo here, my little block, okay, and I'm going to tap. So you want to, again, we talked about this in the inks video, but what you want to be tapping your stamp or your pad. So you can take your pad to the stamp or vice versa. And you want to tap it up and down. You don't want to squish into it, because when you squish into it, whether they're foam or the felt pads, you'll end up pushing the ink further down on your stamp, which will then bleed it out. Okay. So we're going to tap it, tap it, tap it, tap it, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Okay. Then I'm going to take it to my paper and I'm going to push it down. And I'm not going to do chest compressions. I'm just going to hold it there, giving a general overall pressure, but I don't need to push. And I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, and pick it up. And you can see I get, nope, other way, here we go, sorry. Probably by the time I'm done, I'll have the thing there. Okay. Really excellent, excellent coverage on that. Didn't have to do anything specific other than exactly what I said. So again, I'll do another one. Tap, 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 tap. Yep. I missed some on the edge. And I'm just going to put it down. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. And pull up. And again, perfect coverage. And I can do another one just to prove that it's not a fluke. Let's do that one.
Corinne?
Yes?
I have a really bad habit of pressing down too hard.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about putting down the stamp and tapping the ink to the stamp?
You can do that too. Yeah. So instead of taking my ink, so now this, because originally I was using such a small block, right? So it's really easy to just take that. But this block is a lot bigger, which could end up with me getting ink all over the sides of it, which I don't want.
I'm bad for that. Yeah.
So I can take my ink instead. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Okay. And I need another piece of paper. And I'm just putting it down. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. And you can see like my fingers are not turning red because I'm pushing so hard. I'm just holding it down evenly and lift. And again, perfect coverage. Okay. So these are the basic tools. These are the cheapest, paper, which, it's back to school time. You can buy a whole package of loose leaf paper for 20 cents, I think it is. And blocks, these are probably your cheapest options. Okay. However, there is another option for what you can do, and that is, this is called a stamp pad. Okay, it's very similar. So it's a little harder than a mouse pad, but a mouse pad would likely work. It's a little thick. But again, it's mostly just to give you something that your stamp will bite into. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, now this, I'm going to move on to a silhouette stamp. And let's do this. And I'm still going to do it on here. I'm just going to do it on a regular little, on my mat here. I'm not going to move on to a stamp platform. Just going to continue to use this. So now, because I am not doing any embossing, so I'm not using an embossing ink or anything like that, I don't need to use my embossing buddy yet. I'm just using regular ink and just stamping down because I just want the sentiment or I just want the image. And again, I'm just tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. And you can kind of have a look. You can see on here, see if I can get my, and you can kind of, I'm not sure if you can see the shine on there. So you can actually check to see how much ink did it cover the entire stamp. Okay. And we're going to center in over here. And just holding it down. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C. Now, because this is a larger silhouette, I'm actually going to hold it on here for a moment. If you watch the Lavinia stamp videos, they say to give the ink time to absorb into the paper. Well, it's a pigment ink. It by and large sits on the top of the paper, but you want to allow it time and for the friction of it to release from the stamp onto the paper. It's not necessarily going to get thoroughly absorbed into the paper. That's kind of a misnomer. But you do want to give yourself a little bit of time. Just let it sit and do its work. Yeah, the bit. Now, mine is not in a full Lavinia stamp, so it's an alley one, so there are a few areas, but that's how the stamp in general transfers. But it's still a really nice, solid image without having to have any kind of fancy materials. Again, this thing, I got this one from the States, but a mouse pad would work. So this was $3, I think I paid for it. It's a little stiff. Your stamp, a good quality ink, and the block. Again, so you don't need anything fancier than that to move on to a nice, you know, to get a good image with your stamps. You don't need anything more than that. However, if you happen to have it, yay for you. That's not always a bad thing. And I'm just gonna blot that as I use the pigment ink. So the most important thing when you're stamping is you want, you know, something for it to bite into and a good quality ink. That's what's going to make the big difference and give you the best images for your stamping. Okay, so let's pull that one off now. Now you say, but Karine, I have these ginormous background stamps, but I don't have a stamp positioner, or they don't fit in my stamp positioner. Now what am I supposed to do? Ah, good question, good question. Okay, so I have this really cool geometric background stamp. So again, this is one that I've never used. So I'm just gonna run my fingers over it, kind of allow some of the oils and stuff from my skin to start conditioning my stamp. Okay. So, and I want to use my gold detail. So again, I don't have a stamping platform. What I do have is a desk. So I'm going to do this on black cardstock. Okay. I have my little embossing buddy here, and I put a little clippy on it because I don't particularly like the feeling of the cornstarch on my hands. Yes, I'm a bit of a princess that way. Okay. So now I'm just tapping it around, and I'm going to give it a little blow off there. Now, with my Versamark, which I'm testing, and I can see that I've got a little bit of extra ink around the edges of it. And when I push my finger into it, I get a slight stickiness onto it. So I know that I've got enough ink on my pad that I should be able to very easily stamp with it. So I'm just going to go over my stamp, getting good coverage.
Corinne, what was this embossing buddy that you speak of?
The embossing buddy, oh, you must have not been on here when I was telling Judy how to make her own. Basically, now this one came from Michael's. There's a few different kind that you can get, and it's just essentially, it's cornstarch in here. And the reason why you want to use it is because it helps to de-static, that's not really a word. It takes away the static and oils and things like that. It helps make your paper easy to, so that your embossing powder only sticks where the Versamark or where your ink is, okay? Now I'm gonna take my cardstock, and I've inked up my paper. Let's move that one for now, that one for now. Okay. And I'm just gonna push it and put it face down on my stamp, like so. And I'm gonna take a piece of cardstock over top, or this is actually just copy paper. And then I'm going to give it a nice gentle massage. I'm just going to rub it. And you want to keep your hand in one place here so that your cardstock doesn't move, okay? So just continue to allow your, like, just keep giving it a nice gentle massage. You don't want to push into the valleys because you'll rip your cardstock. You just want to give it a nice little rub. Nice little shoulder rub. Okay. And then we're going to pick up, and I think, yeah, you can see here in some of the areas, looks like I got a fairly decent coverage on it. So let's shift that out of the way. Our embossing powder here. We need to do gold so we can see it all, or everybody can see it here. Yep. Glitter vacuum works so awesome.
Is that what he's actually called?
It's a glitter vacuum. Yep. Best thing ever. Okay, so as you can see, I got actually a really good stamp, and I don't have, there's only one spot right here where I have a little bit of extra glitter sticking. So, I'm just gonna push that out. Woo. And, yeah. Got some, yep, there we go. Oh. Okay, so now I have an awesome little one that I can do. I'm going to do watercolors with this in like metallics and stuff like that. And because I've done the embossing on it, it will hold everything in the window, in the wells, and it shouldn't leak into the other areas. But for not having a stamp platform, for not being able to redo it twice, look at that image and how well that came out. Just by doing a massage on my desk, basically. So we can do, let's give it a go on another one. Was that a fluke? I don't know, maybe. Let's try another one and see. So this time, now I haven't used this stamp, but look at how intense it is. It's like, this is a lot of black. So let's see what happens. So again, I'm going to condition it just by rubbing some oils and whatnot. Okay. One piece of white. And let's try it with the amalgam ink this time. Let's just see. So, and especially when you're doing the larger stamps or silhouette stamps, you want to move your ink pad. You don't want to always just keep it in the same area. If you move it around, because you'll have different areas that still have more ink on them. Because we all have habits of where we like to hit, like based on where we're holding our hands and things like that, of where we'll end up hitting the stamp pad. So some parts of it may be a little more dry. So if you're finding, or if you don't have the re-inker or you're having a problem with that, just try turning your stamp pad a couple times. What? Okay, so that looks pretty. Nope, there's a couple areas there missed. All right, let's see here. Okay. Now, if you don't have the best hand strength, a really good option for using for rubbing is, this is a dry erase marker. This will give you a nice firm, oh fuck, I think I moved my, oh I didn't, it's just paper on it. Okay. Helps you give a massage all the way over, gives a nice firm pressure. Allows all of your stamp and your paper to come into contact.
Could you use a brayer or not?
You could use a brayer as well. A brayer works. I also got from Allie, I got this awesome little hockey puck thing. This works like a dam on your stamp presses, which I'm also going to do on there. But yeah, so if you can use your hands, if you don't want to have, this was like $1.25 at Dollar Tree. So again, it's, you don't have to have a lot of supplies in order to be able to get good images. All right, let's see how that turned out. Wow, not bad. There's a couple areas that it missed, but that was more along the lines of my personal, my stamp pad isn't quite as juicy, but still, like, so much of it came out really, really well. And of course, because I didn't use a stamping platform, I can't go back and give it a go now. I mean, I could try it, but I'm fairly certain that'll be a wonker. But even then, for me, this is a really cool grunge. Like I will be using this one. I'm not Christy, I won't be throwing it away. Oh, I have to get on my thing to clean that later. Shoop. And the background one right there. Okay, so those are how to work with just very little for supplies. Okay, now if you are someone who has purchased a stamp platform, whether it's this one, there's multiples out there, there's Tim Holtz, there's a Crafter's Companion, there's Stampin' Up. Like every company now has its own stamping platforms, or there's multiple different variations of it out. Okay. The benefit of a stamping platform is, for example, if I had used this in my stamping platform, sorry, the coffee one, I could have gone back, re-inked it, and pressed it down again if I wanted to. You need a slightly bigger than this one, and I haven't unpacked my Tim Holtz one yet. So I do have a bigger one, but it's difficult to do background stamps in these ones. Okay. For stamping platforms, when you have, let's put that over there so that I don't, okay. If you are using a red rubber stamp, you take this one out, okay? So much the same as my little red stamp pad here that I was using. This is in here to assist if you have photopolymer or just acrylic stamps like the plastic ones. You need something in there that will give it some depth and also allow it to bite in. If you have a red rubber stamp, which I don't have on me here, but it's the stamp that has the red backing, a little bit of gray on it or whatever, it doesn't need that because the give is already in the red rubber that's on it. So you just have the plain background. If you want to do a background stamp, let's see if the little fit in here. Yeah, just about. Okay. So let's do. There are ways to put a background stamp in. So because you want your background to sit right in the center, essentially. Do I have this? I do. When you're doing a stamp of this size, and you're only doing, this is like an A2, so it's a 5.5 by 4.25, and I want it to be able to come off the edges because I want to have my whole card be this. So obviously I wouldn't be able to use my magnets in here. Actually, that's not going to work. I need to put my thing back down. Okay, so because I wouldn't be able to use my magnets, because if I tried to do that, obviously my stamp isn't going to be able to lay flat. Okay, so there's a couple of ways that you can do this if you want to center it. You can invest in a sticky mat, so a mat that fits in here that has its own stickiness to it, or cut down, if you have extra Cricut mats, cut a Cricut mat in here so that it will fit. Apparently Brutus Monroe Company has just come out with a mat that will actually fit in the MISTI, things like that. But for myself, I'm just going to use a little bit of tape. Okay. So this isn't going to give me the greatest of ones because it's actually interfering right here with my mechanism. So I'll see if I can get it to go here. Is that going to work? Well, I might be able to get an image of that. Let's give it a go. Okay. So you want to do, obviously you're going to ink up your stamp. And then you just press, you provide an even pressure, making sure that you're kind of touching on every area here, which is why these things have become so handy, especially if you have carpal tunnel or if you have problems with your hands. You get so much pressure here without having to have an awkward angle in your hand. So you just continue to push down, making sure that you're catching every area there. And considering that it cut off on the edges here, not bad at all. Very nice. Now I want to make sure that I wipe that off though, because I've got ink on the edges. So before I go and put something else in there. Get my stamp away. And this one, I'm going to go back here. So again, using the stamp platform, let's put in a, I'm gonna close, yes it was. Okay, so now this one, I'm gonna use this beautiful silhouette stamp. So and she's gonna be there, coming off the edge. So because this has enough space on it, I can actually put my magnets in, so I don't have to worry about taping it down. Okay. So I'm going to close the door on my platform, pick up my stamp. So now I've got my stamp on the other side here, my paper is in, and theoretically I should be able to, if I make note of where I've stuck it, because this edge comes off of my paper a little bit, I want to be able to have that off the edge. So I don't want to have my paper exactly in the corner here. So I'm just kind of going right in the center. Bring it out, good quality ink again, and tapping. Tap, 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 tap. Okay. And closing up the lid and just giving a nice all over pressure. And again, even with the stamp platform, you want to make sure that you're not doing chest compressions. You don't want to push so hard, because when we push so hard, especially when you have sentiments, it's not as bad with something like this, except for in the area where the wings are. If you push too hard, what you're going to do is you're going to flatten out your stamp, and instead of getting a nice crisp line to it, you end up getting it fatter, or it ends up being somewhat wavy or something like that. So the same thing when you're using a sentiment of something like that, that's why you don't want to do those chest compressions. You don't want to be pushing so hard on it that you actually end up setting your stamp in and then squishing it down, because it stretches out then. So that's what takes away from that perfect image. Nice. Yay. Again, really nice image there. So I'm going to do one more with the Versamark. So I'll do another heating emboss one. Remember what to do with the heat emboss. The other ones are brought out. Let's do this one. I haven't used it yet. Brand new stamp. Whoop, whoop. Good check. Okay, let's do. How far down will this go? Woo. Okay. Fit in there? Perfect. Okay. So again, before I go and stick my stamp down, I'm going to make sure that I want to condition it. This is brand new. I haven't used it yet. So I want to make sure that I'm taking some of whatever the production dust, things that happen in travel, you know, just want to take some time to condition it in order to allow your stamp the opportunity to give you the best image that it can. Okay. And picking up the stamp. Okay, now I'm actually going to one of the things that I want to do on this one is I'm going to use black ink, and I'm going to heat emboss with clear, because I want a black shiny image. The challenge is that when you use black embossing powder, when you're putting it on your paper, any kind of paper, it's very, very difficult to remove all of the minute particles. Instead, what's easy is to stamp the image in the black ink and then use clear embossing powder over top. And then you don't have to run the risk of having something, because if a clear piece happens to, if I happen to miss it when I'm using my embossing buddy or something like that, a clear is not going to destroy the whiteness of my paper. It'll just look like a star in a background or something like that. Versus if I had little black dots on here, it would look like I might have bugs, like a bug infestation or something like that, which I don't want for this particular piece of art when I'm done. So what I'm going to do instead is stamp it with black ink and use clear embossing powder instead of using a Versamark, like so the sticky ink, and then using black embossing powder. Okay. So again, because I'm using embossing powder and I want the best possible image that I can, I'm going to use my embossing buddy. And again, VersaFine Clair is a pigment ink, so it will stay wet long enough for me to add embossing powder to it and then be able to have it and then be able to melt it. If you're looking at purchasing embossing powders, one of the best things to do, because you can get black, you can get black detail, you can get white, you can get white detail or fine, gold, silver, clear. I, in general, recommend getting the detailed embossing powder because by and large, that's what you're going to use the most. It's the best for sentiments. It's the best for small, fine details like what's on here. and you could use it for larger areas as well. You don't have to have, but that saves you from having to buy 2 different kinds of embossing powder. Is just get the detailed and then you should be good. Whoa, nice image. Okay. Side. Okay. So my intent with this guy is now, once I've done this, I'll be able to ink blend over top of it. And I will still have a nice shine or a nice shiny image to it once it's ready to go. Do that so I don't burn my desk. Going. When you look at this, you can see if I'd have used clear ink or VersaFine ink and then tried to put black, whoops, sorry guys. If I'd have tried to put black on top of it, I would have ended up with a ton of little speckles all over the place. Even using the embossing buddy and things like that, you'd still get a lot of that. Here, turn it around so you can see a little bit better. But by using the black ink and clear embossing powder, all I get is a wonderful shine. And with the embossing buddy, like I don't have any clear outside either, but that, you know, that's just setting myself up to give myself the best results possible, basically. But if I'd used black powder, that I could have ended up with a lot of little speckles all over the place. So this is the easier way, and it basically it just gives you the opportunity to be more successful with your project. Okay. All right. So those are.
Is there anything more satisfying than having that embossing when it melts in that image? I think that's just the most satisfying feeling.
It's so magical. It's like it's this powder. It's a solid that goes to a liquid back to a solid. It's phenomenal. It's very, very cool. Okay, so that's what I've covered for today. That's what I'm going to be covering. So we've done embossing powder and silhouette images. So we've done embossed and silhouette in the MISTI or stamp platform, as well as a background stamp and how to get an entire coverage on the front using a background in a stamp platform. Okay. We have also done on your desk, we've done, this one was a silhouette. Okay. So this again was just on copy paper. This was the background that we did, just attaching it to your desk and just using the rubber that's on the desk, or sorry, the rubber as part of your stamp that allows for that bite and doing the gentle massage on it. So that's what we've got here is these two here with some more embossing and using the embossing buddy. We have done, pretty sure I did that one. No, that was another block one. So that one, and then we've done some sentiments. Anybody have any questions that they haven't asked yet? I'm opening the floor. Don't forget to unmute yourself if you do.
Fabulous tutorial.
Okay, good. Hopefully that has answered most of your questions and will allow for a much easier and much more successful stamping experience for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
I had one of these things and I didn't know what it was for. And I found out.
That's the thicker one?
Yep.
The other thing that you can do with that, Judy, is like, so for example, mine is the size of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. Basically, what you can do is if you want to take it and travel with, because most people don't have to do a stamp this big, you can cut it in half and then you've got two, one for a travel bag or one for at home if you pack a bag and stuff like that.
Can I just ask you something? Oh,
yes.
Somebody there before me?
Yeah.
That stamp there with the writing on it.
This one?
No, that you just put away. You just put it.
This one,
underneath.
yes.
Yeah, right there.
Mm-hmm.
How did you put that on white paper, but how did the back get black?
That was the ink. It's a background stamp.
That's the raised part, is it?
That's the raised part. Yeah, it's a full stamp. So I'm actually going to try that one again, but I want to, fudge. I'm going to cut another piece of paper. I can do this one again, and I'll use a different ink. I'll use my juicier ink and see if I get a better, better image. Okay. So this is, well, now it's got a little bit of ink on it, obviously, because I used it already.
Yeah.
But it was perfectly clear to start with. And then, so I'm going to take, again, my pigment ink.
I'm going to say to you guys, if you are, sometimes you just want little different colors of stamps without spending a fortune. I just bought these at the Dollarama last week because I think I got 4 different colors, maybe 6 different colors. I think they were $2 or something, and they stamp really well.
Nice.
So if you are looking for just like, this is like different colors of blues and pinks.
Yeah.
Fine. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Much better.
But how does the white stay on there?
The white is where the holes are, like where that's the sunken in part. That's the part that's been etched out of the rubber.
Okay, that's the paperback. Okay, yeah, okay.
The white is the cardstock, right? So everywhere where the black is, that's the part that has been stamped now.
Okay. I don't think I've ever I don't have a stamp like that.
It's a, well,
yeah.
It's a Simon Says stamp knockoff.
I see. Okay, knockoff.
That's basically that, yeah. And it's a if I wanted to, if I needed this to be perfect, I'd have to pull out my my Simon Says, or my Tim Holtz stamp platform, which I haven't found yet in my thing here. But I would be able to stick this down and re-stamp it again. That's the benefit of a stamping platform.
Yeah.
I don't have one. This is the best I would get if I didn't have a stamping platform.
Yeah.
Which, for me,
that's good.
This is fine because
yeah.
I have a. Let's see here. Like I have a. See, look at. I've got like this love coffee die. Like right, like that's gonna come it up, basically right there. Anyway, so by the time I trim this down, ta-da, done card.
Yes.
Right.
Oh, that's great.
It's gonna go up on something anyways for that, so I don't need it to be perfect for me. So, but because I did use a pigment-based ink on here, I do want to make sure that I blot this. Otherwise, it'll, yeah, see, even there, some of the ink did come off because it's still wet, and that's a lot of ink that went into there. So,
yeah,
you want to make sure that you take a little bit off so that you don't get it all over everything else.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions from anybody?
You probably said, and I missed it.
Okay.
Why the Winnie the Pooh thing that you had put down, and then you said, Why did you use that?
This
When
is
you were embossing.
it's silicone. So I actually have a few of them. These ones I found and I just couldn't resist myself. And then I got some more from a couple from Allie, because I can put my ink pads on here, like when I'm using my brushes, and then my ink pads don't slide around as bad, right? So I can brush them up without having to hold them and get as much ink on myself. But the other thing is, because this is silicone, I can put this on here and it raises it up. It holds my paper without me having to hold on to it.
That's what I thought, but I
Right?
just wanted to ask that. That's what I
And
thought.
it also provides a buffer so that I'm not burning the top
Your
of my
hand.
desk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that too. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
I was like, oh, that's genius, because I actually bought one of these was supposed to be a gift for my sister-in-law for Christmas.
I have
And then
one
I
of those.
saw somebody using one and I was like, hot damn, I guess I'm keeping both of them.
Yeah.
I have a
I have a
question,
question, I
Corinne.
have a comment.
Okay, go ahead, Joanne.
In my opinion, there is really something to be said about using quality inks.
Yes.
There are certain inks like the VersaClear, which is what you're using to do those blacks, that until you told me it, I was using good inks, but that one has such phenomenal coverage.
Yep.
That it's worth every penny you pay for it.
Yep. Yep. The other one that is very good as well. Now these are all Supinico, but VersaFine, it's the original VersaFine Onyx is another one that's really great for using and getting nice, crisp, clear. It's also a pigment ink, but
It's
you
very
get
clear
beautiful,
lines.
crisp, clear stamping out of it, especially for sentiments. It's really excellent for that. But because I follow so much in doing the Lavinia things, and they have so many beautiful colors with these ones, it's almost the same formulation.
And
This
I
one's just a
asked
little
you
bit
what
better.
you were using for your Lavinia because I
Yeah.
just wasn't with the VersaFine getting a clean coverage.
Yep.
But the Claire makes a huge difference.
It does. It does. And then waiting the time. That's the other thing too. If you're using a silhouette, it's not so bad with like with sentiments, because if you look at the difference, like look at how much area there is on a sentiment here.
Absolutely.
Okay, like there's not as much sentiment compared to all of this, right? So you have to give time for the friction. You have to give it time for it to sit on there and to transfer from your stamp onto your paper. These things, it doesn't take that long because there's not a lot of surface area here. So the more surface area you have, the more patience you have to have, or you use a stamp platform and then you can do it a few times, right? And a good ink, so you can use this for anything except for alcohol inks.
Yeah,
So
I'm aware of that one.
Yeah. However, this one, so the Gina K, the amalgam, you can use it for either or. So you don't have to have that in your spot.
So I might have to look into it.
But it's not as, again, the viscosity of this one, because it has more of an oil base, is much better for stamping, but you get fairly decent with these ones, with the amalgam ones, fairly decent. Just keep your pad really well inked.
I'm using Memento or something.
Yeah, Memento's great for alcohol.
Yeah, Memento is the one I use for alcohol.
Yep, yeah, it's great. That's the standard until they created the amalgam, and they only created the amalgams because people had to keep in mind which ink, what am I doing, what medium am I using, right?
Wow. Yeah, I can't tell you how many times I've stamped something with the wrong ink and then got painting and realized, crap.
Yes, exactly. And so that's the problem. That's why they created these amalgam inks, was so that they could avoid that exact problem.
It's bleeding all over the place.
Yes, exactly.
Running into it.
So where do you buy the amalgam inks and that?
This one I had to have, I think I got this one from R&R. I actually got it for Christmas, but I think I sent them to R&R for it. So it's you can order from Gina K herself, like directly from her website, which is the States, or a specialty craft, paper craft store. I don't think
Scrapbook Addicts carries the other one for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm fairly certain I got this from R&R Scrapbooking.
Okay.
So, fairly certain. And I have the re-inker for it. I just sometimes forget, right? Like, so you want to...
Oh, are we going to do re-inkers?
I could show a re-inker if you want.
I have no idea how much ink I should be putting in.
Oh, yeah.
Well, seeing as how I'm doing this now, I guess I could re-ink my pen.
Why not use the mess to continue?
Yeah, exactly. All right, now I don't have, what's funny though is I don't have a gift card. So I'll just use this piece of cardstock. Okay, so when you're re-inking, okay, you're gonna go across in a pattern so that it's covering basically everything. The best thing to have is a credit card, like an old credit card or a debit card or gift card or something like that. You see how it sits on the top here. Okay. So that's about how much ink you want to use. Now it's starting to sink in on this side already, but what you want to do is you're going to drag your paper, well, not your paper, your gift card across, because you want to spread that ink out.
I use the back of a spoon.
Back of a spoon would be a good idea. But this is working. It's absorbing a little bit of the ink, but it's not bad. But it's fairly, you want to see it so it's kind of saturated, but basically you want to work it so that it's covering the entire part of your pad. And that's going to absorb in. Now, if you're concerned about it having too much juiciness, take a piece of paper and stamp off, right? Like just use your pad like that. Okay. So, and I'll just give that a couple of minutes. That'll just continue to soak in. And now my pad has been re-inked and should be good for a while now.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It shouldn't be, you don't want it so thick that it's going to pool on the top. And if it's pooling, just use your gift card and rub it in a little bit more, right? Like just continue to shift it around. I'm going to move this before I go in forward. Kay, did I hear you have a question? You were going to ask something?
No. Oh, I think it was me.
Was it you, Gail? Okay, go ahead, Gail.
I don't know a lot about embossing powder, and you mentioned the word detailed embossing powder. Is that okay? So what is the difference, and what is the best brand that you would recommend?
Any brand is pretty good. Wow is very good. British Monroe is good. Ranger is good. Any embossing powder that you can get is good. Okay, it's not about that. It's just about what you want to do with it. Okay, so for example, let's pull out Pearl Emboss. Let's see if I still have a, oh yeah, I have a detail. Okay. All right, okay, so we all recognize some of these. We've all worked with Matt, right? Okay, so these are embossing powders. Okay, so if you know, you're going to put them in, but these are incredibly thick, right? Some of them even have chunks of metal in them. Like this one is it says Era powders, but that, oh no, hammered metal. Okay, so that's what this one is. And if you look, you can, oh, sorry, going the other way. There we go. Okay. You can see how thick some of those bubbles are, right? Those are going to pop up and they're going to melt into bigger chunks is what that one is. So this one is not one I would want to use for a sentiment because all it's going to do is bleed all over unless that's what I was looking for. This would make, well, it's mostly for metal type things. It's good for gears, something that you want to cover the entirety of. However, I would not use this for gears on a stamp because gears on a stamp have fine details, right? So if I was trying to get it to show teeth on a gear, if I was using this, it would bleed through to the other gears. I wouldn't get a nice sharp detail. Versus, so you had that size. Now, this is a gold pearl. Look at how fine that is. Okay. Now this is not actually fine detail. This is just, this is a pearl embossing powder in champagne color. So this is a next grade kind of thing, you know. The difference between like a chunky glitter, a fine glitter, an extra fine glitter, that's what we're talking about with embossing powders. Okay, so this would be a chunky type glitter, and then this one would be like a fine glitter. And when you get down to the detail, so this is a detailed black, and there's tons of it in here because I hate using it because it leaves little speckles everywhere. But when you, let's see here. See if you can see. Whoops, let me get my finger in the shot here.
Okay.
How fine that is.
Okay, so we really want, when we're doing that technique you just showed, you want very fine. That's what you mean by detailed, very fine?
Very fine.
Okay, that helps me a lot.
Or detailed.
Okay.
Well, and most of them will actually say detail on them.
Yes.
Oh,
so here's the
okay.
difference. Okay, so I'll show you here. Wait, this one says pearl embossing, recollections, and then the color. Okay, this one here, detail black.
Oh, okay. So I can actually look for the word detailed. Okay,
actually
great.
look for the word detailed. And
okay.
the only reason why
I bought this one on Amazon. I think I paid $14 for it.
Okay.
It's Judy Kins, but it says clear detail. That's why I was wondering the same thing, is if there's different.
That is clear detail. It is not clear. Sorry, clear detailed. Yes, that would work. Because the other one that you can get, which makes like a sticker type, which we all sometimes have, this, okay, this is ultra thick embossing powder. Right?
Yeah.
This one here. So this, when you melt it, is the same as using, it's the same as using, what's that stuff that we use? Glossy accents. When you melt this, this is how thick that is.
Oh, okay.
So when you look at something like that and it melts, how are you going to get a fine detail out of that? You're not going to get anything crisp out of this. But you don't want, if you're using this kind of powder, you don't want any crispness, right? So the only reason why I say to get a detail embossing powder is because you will use the detail more often than you will use a regular powder. Okay, because for most of the stuff that you're going to be embossing, it's going to be fine detailed like this. It's going to be a sentiment, right? And if you don't want to have to invest in a bunch, okay, you can do, you just get the, where's my clear? You get clear detailed, because clear will make whatever color ink you use, that's what this will be, right? So if you want pink and you want, instead of buying pink embossing powder and pink ink and all of that kind of stuff, you get the pink ink and you use your regular detailed clear embossing powder.
I love that idea. That's a big help. Yeah, I love that idea.
Because we tend to use inks more often, or we might already have things like you have your Lavinia stamps, like your Lavinia inks that you use, Lavinia or the VersaFine Clair. This, because I like to do the Lavinia stuff, I'm more often to have colors of these kind of things than I am to have a bunch of different, just happens to be a freak that I have a lot of embossing powders, but I don't have a lot of colored ones. So I can use my VersaFine Clairs, or you can also use Distress Oxides. They're not going to give you the crispest, the most crisp of images, but you can stamp with them and they will still stay wet long enough to emboss with them. Okay. But if you have the VersaFine, I highly recommend using the VersaFine. But whatever color of ink you're using and you use clear detail, then you're going to have that nice shine to it in the color that you want. Without having to buy every single color of the rainbow of embossing powder.
I love that idea. Yeah, that's wonderful.
I remember you telling us that a long time ago. That's why I bought the clear detail.
Yep.
Because you had said, that way if you stamp whatever color, and I thought, oh, that's a good idea.
Yes. So this is your base investment, is a clear detail embossing powder. That's the one that you recommend if you're doing any kind of embossing. That's what you want to start with. Okay. If you do a lot of Christmas, which I know a lot of us do, then you'll do a silver and a gold. Silver and a gold, and the other one that works is a white. So I highly recommend the first ones to start with would be a clear detail and then a white detail. Okay, because this is the only thing that's going to give you color on black. Like, so if you're doing you want a black sentiment strip, you're going to need to heat emboss white on it, right? To get it to show on there, or gold or silver. Okay. Those are your three
some of the older embossing powders. Yeah. They may not say detail on them. They may say ultra fine
Yes.
Extra fine,
Extra
and
fine.
those are they are the same. So if you have some from way back,
yeah,
it's the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if that's something that you're getting into, if you're making more cards, and you've got the sentiments and things like that, then that's what you're going to want to invest in, is the detail. Because especially if you have a stamping platform, once you've stamped your item and then you put your embossing powder on it, you can put your card or your base, put this back in your stamping platform, re-ink, put more embossing powder on top of it. Like if it's not smooth enough for you, you can use another layer. You can do it 3, 4, 5, 10 times to make it as thick as you want it to be, right? But I can make that using the detail as thick as I want to, but I can never make this as thin as I want to.
Right.
Okay, does that make sense?
Yes.
So
Yeah, that's a big help. Thank you.
So
yeah.
you put it in your you put it in your stamping thing, and then I just re-ink it, like emboss it, and then you re-ink it and emboss it again.
Yep.
Oh,
yep.
Thank you. I never thought of that.
Hold it. Okay, I'm lost.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm going to Versa ink my thing in my stamping platform.
Yep. I'll show you. I'll show you, Linda.
To take it out, to emboss or to put the. Okay, show me.
I'll show you. Okay. So I'm going to put these away. I'm going to use. Yeah, I'll use this one. Nope, I'm going to use this one actually. Change my mind. Change my mind. Oh no! I know, right? Nobody said you could change your mind. What's up with that? Okay, so let's take this out. Oh my god! Oh my god!
Not allowed to do that.
Okay. Great. Okay, so you see here how now I know it's difficult because it's black on black, so it's difficult to see. But what I'm doing is I'm taking my piece of paper and I'm putting it in the bottom right-hand corner as close as I can, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so now I'm taking my sentiment and I'm gonna put it on here like so. I'm gonna do this other one too, because why not do a twofer? You know, I like a good twofer. All right.
I'm not even going there.
Thank you. All right. Now, first things first. So now I've put my stamps on. I've put them on basically where I want them. I pushed down so that they're now on the door of my stamping platform. Okay. Now I'm going to take my embossing buddy because I want good results. Because I want good results. And I'm going to take my. I'm not doing it in that. Where is my Versamark? Versamark is right there. Okay. This is the other thing that I forgot to tell you guys. I meant to tell you and I forgot. So now I'm inking up my stamps. Okay. So because I've put the embossing buddy down, okay, I'm only going to, I should only end up having my embossing powder sticking where I'm putting it down now. But what has happened is because of course I had the powder on there, I want to re-ink this right away. Okay, I'm going to re-ink it, especially because I'm using white on black. So I'm going to re-ink it because what happened when I pushed it down, my stamp where it was all sticky has now taken up and it's now covered in powder here because it lifted the powder. So now I want to put more Versamark on here because now I can, some of that Versamark would have gotten transferred to there, but not necessarily all of it, right? So I want to make I want to give myself the best opportunity to get the best results. So now I'm pulling my paper out of my stamp block. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to put my white. Unbelievable. Nice. Okay. So I don't know if you guys can see that, but look at there. You can't see any stray coming back into frame here, sorry. Any stray little pieces of white, like even that right there. So there's no little pieces of embossing. Glue down.
That is the quietest heat gun I've ever seen.
I know.
Yeah, that's why I like it. It
Or
takes a little
heard.
longer, to heat up, but it's so quiet.
I thought you'd put yourself on mute.
No,
That's what I thought so too.
nope. Okay, there you are. So now you can see here. So I've gotten a pretty good, let me get you up close there. I've gotten a pretty decent image, right? Like it's not bad. I'm going back into frame here. But let's say, so it's still a little bumpy. I can see where it's a little bumpy. And I decide, not quite enough here. Not quite enough. So because I use my stamping platform, I can put it back exactly where it was. Okay, putting it right back into the corner. Put this down, just like so. Just got to make sure this is dry so I'm not lifting it. Yep, good. Okay. Embossing buddy again. Because I've been handling it, so I've been touching it. So in the same way that I was conditioning my stamps, I've now put oil onto my paper, right? Which I don't want. I'm going to go back. Boom, boom, boom. Tap, 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 tap. Okay. And put that down.
Tapping at the window pane.
Right?
Okay.
And I'm lifting. And again, now on top of all of that powder, or sorry, on top of the white area that I had already heat embossed, I had my powder from my embossing buddy, right? So when I went to stick this down, the original layer of Versamark ink has now lifted the powder. So now I want to put actual ink back down on top of this. That's why you want to do it. If you're embossing, you want to do it twice. You don't always have to do it, but if you're embossing, you want to do it twice. So you see how I could put that right back in there again, Linda? Yeah. In the exact same spot. Okay. That's the benefit.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking to your other ones and your other samples, a lot of them you didn't put into the corner. You just like one you put in the middle.
Yep.
And I was going, how are you going to fit it back exactly? Now I get it. Yeah. Thank you.
For those ones, I would have to pay attention to where I put it. Right. So the reason why I did that was because it was a big background stamp, right? So it wouldn't fit right into the corner because I wanted it to be able to run off of my page so that it looked like it was meant to be a full image.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So now I'm going to be able to reheat this, and you can, I'm not sure if you guys can see there, but there is no, sorry, excuse me. There is not any powder anywhere else. It just re-stamped right where I wanted it to re-stamp.
And I know some of the other stamping platforms, I'm not sure about Stampin' Up! One, maybe Christina can tell us, but some of them have the metal L bracket that you can center. If you are going to center in the corner, you can place those in so you can reposition, Linda, like you were asking if it was in the center.
Okay.
I also have, you can get for the Misty or the Stamp Perfect or whatever, something called the Misty Corners, and that's what it is. Yes. It would actually gives you a bracket right here so you can move it into the center kind of thing and have that space. So I don't use them very often.
No,
I just pay attention to my measurements. Double stamped, doubled embossed.
That's great.
Nice. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Years and years ago when the, what is it called? Ultra thick. And you needed a melting pot. Well, I got into that at the store, bought the melting pot,